Bobo is saying, what do you see going forward? Khadim Hussein Rizvi seems like a symptom of a much larger problem. Yeah, that's a very good question.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. Succession wars have already started. And between his son and his number two, a man called Pir something Qadri, I forgot it, Pir Afzal Qadri, who was his number two, his support, his advisor, and his son. So there's already a succession war going on. But there's absolutely no doubt about the fact that his death has created a job vacancy. And the kind of power, the political power, the dynamite power of this movement is not going to remain unfulfilled for long. Whether the successor is as charismatic as Khadim Rizvi, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see, who does take his place.
But it's good for Pakistan that he died, isn't it?
I don't think. No, I disagree.
Wow, why?
And I'm not saying it's good or bad for Pakistan, because these are long people come and go. I think there are much deeper currents, social and political currents, that cause these movements. Khadim Rizvi didn't create this movement. He may have been a brilliant leader, but getting rid of him or him dying or another Khadim Rizvi is not the cause of these movements. These are just people who who turn up to take advantage of these movements. But in the long run, I mean, I don't think it's a man that caused this.
Even though if the movement is bigger than the man, and the movement is not going to go away just because the leader died, isn't it a major blow to the movement that they lost such a charismatic leader? Like, isn't that a major blow to the movement?
Go ahead.
Sure. Perhaps a setback. But okay, put it like this. After seeing Mumtaz Qadri's funeral, and these were my thoughts when I saw it, I was certain that there's someone sitting somewhere looking at this funeral and thinking, wow, I mean, we could really marshal this kind of power, this kind of emotions for political gains. Yeah. And Khadim Rizvi was the man to come up. I have no doubt that there's any shortage of contenders to take that position. So Khadim can die and his successors can die, but this movement will find it's got underlying social and political causes which need to be addressed.
Sean, how do you feel about it? Because I mean, you're talking about this. It sounds like you're a little resigned to this, that this is inevitable. Yet you do a lot of work with religious minorities who are victims of this whole system. Are you optimistic? I know that you've been working for Junaid Hafiz. You helped get Asia Bibi out. With the campaigns. I mean, you were definitely part of that. From your dad's, you lost your father to this, and then you saw the funeral of the guy who killed him.
Yeah.
They saw this guy, Khadim Rizvi, capitalize on that and then galvanize those I guess millions of people.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic at all? I mean, when you do the activist work, what motivates you if this movement is something that is almost inevitable, as there's nothing that can be done about it? Or do you think there's nothing that can be done about it?
No, this movement will remain for some time, but there's also a better Pakistan. So it's easy to look at this movement and think this is Pakistan. It's not. We do have our corner.
How do you bring that? How do you bring that out? How do you compete with those crowds?
I'll tell you what I think is important. We can't compete with the crowds, or at least I can't. One man can't compete with the crowds. But what we can do is that we can save individuals. We can save individuals who need to be saved. We can publicly show that someone stands in their corner. We can ensure that there isn't an atmosphere of despondency for a Junaid Hafiz, for an Asia Bibi, for Mazhar Masih. and most lately for a girl, which I'll talk about, a girl called Huma, a 14-year-old girl who's been abducted and forcibly converted, which is code word for kidnap and rape. It is important, first of all, to help these people, to speak about these people. But I also want to say that there is another Pakistan that opposes this. There is a liberal Pakistan. There is there are a lot of people who oppose what the the Tehreek Labbaik. It doesn't speak for mainstream Pakistan, but it is louder. So to champion that cause and to be in that corner doesn't mean not accepting that the enemy is there and their power.
Right.
One thing that doesn't help, I think, is the absence of like countries like United States, North American countries, Western European countries, and leaving a vacuum for countries like China to step in and become trading allies in such a way that less countries like Pakistan have to worry about having good human rights records to be able to be part of the global economy because of how influential China has become and how uninterested China is into having any standards for human rights with the countries that it's dealing with. And that level of independence from North American and Western European country leaves a lot of room for countries like Pakistan to just not worry about.
No, I disagree with that, Armin. I
Okay.
don't think the U.S. support for human rights is anything more than mere rhetoric.
I know.
If you look at
that's a failure. I agree.
Exactly. So it's not like sort of a growing Chinese influence in the region is going to worsen things. The United States, it's important, the rhetoric that the United States delivers, but I don't think it's a real counterbalance, because it's the United States also that supported General Zia-ul Haq, who, over this dictator in the 80s that created, during the Afghan Jihad, during sort of this indoctrination period that I'm talking about, that sort of molded society in ways, the results of which we are seeing now. So the US has a good sort of marketing campaign on human rights and things, but I don't think I don't think they are a real counterbalance to this.
No,
not to underestimate, not to understate their sort of genuine good work, which is there, but I don't think that's the thrust of their political involvement.
It definitely is not. I agree with you but there was a marketing department, even though it's not based on any consistency. In fact, United States supports and backs dictators and allies with countries like Saudi Arabia, which are the main violators of human rights.
Yeah.
So, but at least there was a marketing department that pretended that they're on the side of human rights. When it comes to China, they don't even have to pretend. Like, they're like, you can rely on our support and you don't have to clean house at all, ever.
So
don't worry about it.
Window dressing is gone, and
Yes.
we missed the window dressing.
I mean, it was better than nothing. It was better than I don't know.
No, but Armin, here I want to say that Pakistan has a very sort of gallant record of fighting dictatorships, which isn't a US sponsored thing. So from the outside, their marketing sort of campaign is so good that you think that it's a US thrust that leads to sort of upholding good values, but that's not true in these theaters. You have a very liberal strain in Pakistani society, not just in terms of poetry and literature and society and so sort of social movements, but also in terms of actual movements counter to these movements. 11 years while General Zia was there, it was Pakistani movements that opposed General Zia. So I think these are homegrown problems which will be fixed which will eventually have homegrown solutions.
You're saying like wait. So are you suggesting that? Because I always had some hope, maybe naively, in a unity or cooperation between secular activists globally, regardless of borders. And I think a lot of people are skeptical of that because of the influence because of the ulterior motives of government getting involved in with the excuse of promoting human rights. And a lot of people, rightfully so, are very skeptical of any movement that is not grown internally, right? But
Oh, yeah.
what about non-governmental actors of activists getting involved, helping each other, getting united, learning from each other, supporting each other? Like when we say that this movement has to be internal from Pakistan itself, are we talking about not getting non-Pakistani activists involved in this fight in Pakistan?
No. Non-Pakistani activists can't get involved in this fight. See, like in Pakistan today, the media, civil society, activists, journalists, writers, poets, are sort of like are opposed to these changes that we are talking about. It's not like these things happen without any resistance. So there's a very active civil society and a human rights struggle in Pakistan. And I think that is what's going to create, as there is in Iran, and that is what is a counterbalance to these horrible monsters today. And when we see change, that is where it's going to come from.
I think, for example, a win in Iran against religious oppression would be a major boost to the same fight in Pakistan, or a win in Pakistan would be a major boost to activists in Iran. And that's why I see, like, I think like we could, working together as secular activists, I think that's the only way for us to continue.